Hi friends, thank you for tuning in to the Concussion Coach podcast. I'm Bethany Lewis, the Concussion Coach. I'm a neurological occupational therapist and certified life coach, and I specialize in guiding people through their concussion recovery journey. I am passionate about helping people understand their injury, speed up their recovery, and reclaim control over their life post-concussion. The purpose of this podcast is to help increase awareness of concussions and the impact they can have on a person's life, and to bring hope to people who have suffered a concussion and those who love them. I firmly believe that sharing stories and knowledge about concussions will bring important light and understanding to this misunderstood and often invisible injury. The information in this podcast is meant to bring that awareness and hope and is not meant as medical advice. The opinions shared are those of the interviewees and my own. If you are suffering with lingering concussion symptoms, I have created a concussion coaching program specifically for you. I will be your mentor to guide you through your recovery journey, offering help with understanding and managing your symptoms, setting achievable goals, and learning how to manage your own thoughts and nervous system in order to get control over your life again. If this program sounds like something that would help you or someone you love, sign up for a free consultation. In the consultation, you'll get valuable information and resources and gain hope for your future. Sign up for your free consultation at the link in the show notes or at my website, www.theconcussioncoach.com. Hi friends, welcome back to the Concussion Coach podcast. Our topic today is one that I feel is really important and is not talked about as much as it should be in the context of concussions. We'll be discussing nutrition and concussion. My guest today is a perfect person to talk about this. NaTanya Shumway works at Cognitive FX as their nutrition coach. NaTanya graduated from the University of Utah in 2020 with a Bachelor's of Science degree in athletic training and a minor in nutrition. She has since earned certifications in nutrition and medical assisting. She worked as an athletic trainer for a while, but realized nutrition was where she could help individuals the most. She's passionate about helping individuals with a variety of nutritional needs and loves being able to guide people towards their goals with nutrition. She's married, has one son and one on the way, and a German Shepherd. She loves to spend time outdoors and to be with the ones she loves. So thank you so much for being here with us to share your wisdom today, NaTanya.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to chat about nutrition and how to eat better for the brain. So I'm excited.
Great. Excellent. Yeah. So I am guessing that this information will be helpful it's like you said, it's nutrition for the brain. This is going to be helpful for everybody, but probably particular people with concussions, right?
Yes, definitely. I think a lot of it will be for general healing as well from any other injuries too. So if anyone else is listening to this, but yeah, it will be more specific to concussions, but it can also be, geared towards any other type of injury.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, I'm excited to hear what we're going to be chatting about. So to start off, let's just hear more about you. Tell us a little bit more about your path to becoming a nutrition coach and what made you feel like nutrition was where you could help individuals the most.
Yeah. So I guess a little bit more background. I grew up as a gymnast. So through that sport, I did learn a lot about just general nutrition, how to eat to perform better, more in a physical aspect. So that's kind of what started, I guess, my learning of nutrition or my passion. So from there, once I started working with athletes in college and at CFX, I started realizing that just nutrition plays a role in everything we do. And so I, from there, just kind of wanted to learn more, kept learning more. And I did work at CFX as a neuromuscular therapist when I first started, but now I am mainly just doing the nutrition coaching because that is kind of where my passion is. So that's a little bit more about me.
Excellent. Thank you. So what experience have you had working with people with concussions specifically?
Yeah, I like to prepare them for when they come to do treatments at CFX. So the main goal behind that is just we kind of set them up to make sure they are eating what they should be and just be able to prepare their brain to make these new connections when they get to treatment week. So we kind of like to set them up for success before coming to do treatment.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize. So are all of your sessions with people prior to their coming to CFX, or is it do they meet with you while they're there as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. We like to do it before, but I get a lot of people who we can do it during or after as well. Just kind of depends on their schedule too. But the goal is to do it beforehand, but I do have a few that we do after or during.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting. Is there, I guess, like you were saying, it's the reason for that is just to help get them prep their brain body for the week that they're going to be doing, week or two that they're going to be doing there?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. because the brain, to make those new connections, which is a lot of the therapy that they do at CFX, is helping make those new connections. You need, the right nutrients to do that. And so that's why we like to make sure people are eating what they should be before coming so that their brain can do that.
Okay, cool. So what are the top concerns that you found people with concussions have regarding their diet and food supplement intake?
I would say people are very concerned about, just what foods to include and what foods to not include. So we can kind of go over that, because that's, I think, everyone's main question is just, is this food hurting me? Is this food good for me? So I would say try to stay away from processed sugars. That's kind of the main one. So if you can, cutting out processed sugars, and then artificial sweeteners as well. Those can be harmful. So if you do need to sweeten something, stick with more natural sweeteners. And then alcohol is definitely one we don't recommend. So those are some easier ones. And then we don't really recommend any like fad diets either. So I think people kind of get stressed out about, they heard about this specific kind of diet that can be good for the brain. And so we just say stay away from those, any fad diets, which could include like keto, any type of fasting. We don't recommend those. So we think all food groups should be included in your diet. So making sure you have enough protein, enough carbohydrates, plenty of fat, like the healthy fats. Oh, that's another one we can kind of stay away from, is the processed fats, which would be like hydrogenated oils. To give you some examples of those, staying away from vegetable oil, canola oil, sunflower oil even. And that's the hard thing, is a lot of these restaurants cook with those oils. So fast food restaurants. So staying away from fast food can be helpful because they do have those oils typically.
So what oils are okay to cook with?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say avocado oil, beef or duck tallow is great. Ghee, which is clarified butter. And most people with clarified butter can actually do really well if they have any dairy sensitivities. So ghee is kind of a fun one because, even lactose intolerant people can usually consume ghee. It has a very small amount of the enzymes that people are allergic to in dairy normally. So ghee is a great one. You can cook at a high temperature with ghee, so that's also great. And then coconut oil too. And then olive oil is great to use as well. Just stay away from using it to cook with at high temperatures.
Hey, I did not know that. That's really interesting. Why? Just curious. What does a high temperature do?
Yeah, sometimes the high temperature can cause it to oxidize, and it just makes the oil unstable. And so it can cause inflammation in our body instead of decreasing the inflammation.
Huh. Okay. Super, super interesting. And you were saying stay away from artificial sweeteners, but also processed sugars. So I'm assuming like not just like granulated white sugar. You're looking for like honeys or like other types of sweeteners. What would you recommend for those?
Yeah, I typically think honey's a better option, definitely, than like cane sugar, table sugar. So I would say honey's okay in moderation. Maple syrup is generally okay as well. But if you're looking for an even better option, monk fruit is great. That's a newer one, I think, for some people, as well as like date syrup. So those can be some great options.
All right, cool. Excellent. How about, as you were talking, I was wondering, I know a lot of people are curious about coffee. What is your opinion on coffee and like other caffeine sources?
Yeah, that is definitely a big one for people. So I like to have people stay at least under 200 milligrams if they're going to consume it. And then some things you can do to help your body use the caffeine, I guess, in a healthier sense. So we don't recommend drinking it on an empty stomach, and then eating before it as well can be helpful. Or so, not eating before, not consuming it on an empty stomach, and then usually waiting 90 minutes after waking up.
Oh, after waking up. Not 90 minutes after eating.
No, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So I would say eat breakfast like 30 minutes within waking up and then wait another 60 minutes to consume your coffee.
Okay. Interesting. So not having coffee first thing in the morning.
Right. Yep.
And is there a time at night that you recommend that people not consume caffeine?
I would say after 2 p.m. Yeah. Don't after 2 p.m. depending on when you wake up. So that's, I guess, at least 6 to 8 hours before bed. You don't want to consume caffeine. Yeah.
What's the purpose of that? I mean, I think it's the obvious. Well, I'm sure some of it is obvious, but I'm sure there might be things that I wouldn't think of. So what is the purpose of avoiding the caffeine that early or that late?
Yeah. So avoiding the caffeine right when you first wake up, that is more to protect your hormones and your stress level. So cortisol is a big one. So if we can wait at least 90 minutes from waking up, we won't have as much of a spike in that stress hormone. And that's really important when we're trying to heal the brain because we want to keep our stress lower. That helps regulate our nervous system. So just anything you can do to help regulate your nervous system a little bit more. That tends to be an issue with a lot of people with concussions or head injuries is that dysregulation. So push off the time you drink your caffeine. That allows your body to naturally release the amount of stress hormones it's supposed to, and not spike it too much too early. And then, at night, we just don't want it to affect your sleep. Sleep is really important as well. So,
yeah. All right. Excellent. Thank you. How about dyes? Food dyes. Is that problematic?
Yeah, I would definitely avoid those as much as possible. Not even just for, in terms of concussion healing, but just general well-being. I think it's best to avoid those.
Okay. Are there specific things that you've seen people have problems with because of the dyes, or what can those cause?
Yeah. I know like red 40, that specific dye can definitely cause some brain dysfunction. It kind of depends on the person and where they're at, but they're starting to show research that it can cause like possibly even autism in younger kids or more ADHD type symptoms. So it seems like it throws off the nervous system a little bit more, causes some anxiety, things like that. So definitely stay away from red 40 when you can, but other ones as well, like the yellow. So that can be detrimental to well-being in general, but especially when you're healing.
Okay. Good to know. And are there any vitamins, like particular vitamins, minerals that people with concussions tend to be deficient in because of their head injury? Like, can the head injury affect the way the body processes these things?
Yeah. So the head injury itself, I don't think causes a deficiency, but the head injury could throw off your nervous system, or typically does, right? And your nervous system can affect your digestion. So if you're in that fight or flight response all the time, you're in that sympathetic nervous system all the time, your body's going to have a hard time digesting food in general. So I think then sometimes people can become deficient if their digestion is not functioning properly. So I would say really work on digestion, make sure you're having regular bowel movements and you're not bloated, or some people have issues with nausea. So all those things can play a role in just getting the nutrients into our body, which can affect the brain. But the brain injury itself doesn't typically cause any deficiencies. So,
okay. How would you recommend people, if they are having problems with digestion, the bloating, the bowel movements, all of that, what do you tell people? How can they work on resolving that as they're also trying to resolve all the other things that they've got going on?
Yeah. I would say the number one thing is eating smaller meals can be helpful. And then if you haven't had any digestion issues before the concussion, it's just a new thing. Sometimes people can become kind of sensitive to some foods. So really just paying attention to when it's happening, and maybe a food journal can be really helpful in these instances. So writing down what you ate and seeing if, maybe it was that meal that caused the bloating, and then looking more into that meal Some people can become sensitive to a variety of different types of foods post-concussion. So paying attention to maybe what's causing that. With nausea, I usually recommend eating small meals. If it's worse in the morning, sometimes like smoothies or bone broth can be really helpful, easier to digest, or just even like a warm ginger lemon tea that can be very soothing. So there's a couple little tweaks you can make, but some people might even need like a probiotic or eating more fermented foods that can help as well.
Interesting. Are there specific foods? You mentioned that sometimes people have sensitivities to foods that they didn't have before after they have had a concussion. What are there particular foods that tend to have people get sensitive to them, or is it just kind of random?
Yeah, I would say the biggest ones I see is, well, they might have like had it before a little bit, but then it's worse. A big one is dairy. So I would say if that does happen to you with dairy, just avoid it for the time being. Your body doesn't like it, but it won't hopefully be permanent. Another one is gluten. So those two are probably the biggest ones I see. Won't happen to everybody, doesn't happen to everybody, but if it does happen to you, maybe just try cutting it out for a little bit, giving your body or your digestion some time to recover and help the brain recover. And then hopefully you can add those back in.
I assume that's just like a gradual process of adding it back in, just kind of experimenting slowly.
Yep. Yes, exactly. Yep. Yeah, there's not like a set time frame or anything like that.
Okay. And how about those like vitamins, minerals? Are there specific things that people should be focusing on to make sure they have in their diet or in their, as supplements or something?
Yeah. I would say the biggest supplement I recommend is DHA. So that's a big one. Our brain needs a lot of those fatty acids to make the new connections. So if you don't eat fish once or twice a week, definitely look at taking a DHA supplement. So if you don't like fish, definitely look into that. But if you can eat salmon, mackerel, tuna, those cold water types of fish, those are really great high in DHA. So that's probably my number one supplement I recommend. The rest I do try to get people to eat through diet. So these include magnesium, zinc, B12, which is like folate. So those can be really helpful. And I think those are probably the main ones people can possibly be deficient in. And then vitamin D as well. That one generally people, if you live somewhere where it's cold for a good couple months of the year, you get snow, definitely check and make sure you're not vitamin D deficient. So that's something, people without brain injuries can be deficient in. So definitely make sure you're getting enough vitamin D.
Okay, excellent. This might be a really dumb question, but that's okay. I'm going to ask it anyway. You hear a lot about omega-3s. What exactly are omega-3s? Are they related to the DHA or is that something different? Like, tell me all the things.
Yes, so they are like related to the DHA. I would say that's a good way to explain this. So omega-3s, they can kind of consist of DHA and more things. So some other ones are EPA and ALA. So omega-3 is kind of a fatty acid that covers multiple types of fat. So I would just say it's a type of fat, but to get more specific, like yes, omega-3s in general are great, but we look more at the DHA. So it's just a very specific type of omega-3. But that one, omega-3s in general are definitely helpful to include.
Okay. And what specifically about the DHA makes it particularly helpful for brain health or recovery or whatever? Like why DHA?
Yeah. So your brain, in order to form these new neurons, a lot of the neurons have this, or like our cells are composed of this type of fat in a way. So we want to make sure our body gets enough so it can continue to create these new cells. So it really comes down to just how the cell is created, and it will help our cells recreate make new pathways in the brain.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So are there anything like DHA you can get as a supplement? What foods do you recommend that are high in these omega-3s and DHA specifically?
Yeah. So some of the cold water fatty fishes that I mentioned, salmon, mackerel, tuna, some more are sardines, herring. And then if you're looking more at like nuts and seeds, those would be flax seeds, walnuts, chia seeds, and then flaxseed oil as well. Just be careful on that one. Make sure it's from a good source. Walnuts, I don't know if I mentioned that one already, but a lot of those nuts, and then cold water fish.
All right, good to know. And I know that people talk about avocados being really helpful. I think you mentioned that earlier. Like, does it have that kind of fat, or is that a different healthy fat that avocados have?
Yeah, avocados too. Yeah, I totally left that one out there. So yeah, avocados have that type of fat.
Okay.
You can include those. Great.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so is there any other foods that you highly recommend people make sure that they include in their diet that we haven't already touched on?
I guess I would just emphasize like protein, making sure you have enough protein. And then I would say just calories in general. I often see that with concussion patients. Their appetite is not like it used to be because of whatever symptom or reason with the nervous system, but we really want to try to get in a plenty of calories, because when your body's healing, you need the calories. So, if you think, oh, I'm not eating as much as I used to before my brain injury, sometimes, yes, you're less active, but I really, really push people to consume enough calories. That's a big one for me. So don't try to do any type of weight loss plans, nothing like that when your brain's healing. Focus on nutrient-dense foods and getting enough protein. Mm-hmm.
Okay, such good advice. How about hydration? Do you have comments on that part of it?
Yeah, definitely making sure you're hydrated, getting enough water, but it can be even more than just water. So making sure you have enough sodium as well. So sometimes if you wake up and you feel like you're really dehydrated, adding just like a tiny pinch of sea salt to your water in the morning, that can help rehydrate your body. So don't just go and drink gallons and gallons of water that, doesn't have any electrolytes. So really focus on sodium, potassium, magnesium, making sure that those are in your water as well. That will help keep you hydrated.
Okay, so other than adding some salt, how can you make sure that those other things are in your water?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the water source. So like natural spring water will have just naturally more minerals. Water that's been really filtered and purified can be stripped of those minerals. So if you're buying bottled water, look for spring water, or if it's purified, it will often say potassium, magnesium, sodium added back in. So just looking for those. And tap water is it depends on where you live, where it's sourced from. So you can check on that by just kind of looking at your local tap water. Yeah. And what's kind of all in it. But if you're buying water, those are great things to look for.
Okay. Are there any other things, like other good sources of, like, I don't know, is there something you can add to your water or something else that where you can get that potassium, magnesium, and sodium?
Yeah. Magnesium is a little bit harder one. So I would recommend making sure you get that from food, which foods high in magnesium include dark leafy greens, spinach, kale, but also chocolate, like dark chocolate. So I would say if you're craving dark chocolate, maybe pay attention to if you're deficient in magnesium. Yeah. So definitely listen to our bodies. It's a great thing to do. But yeah, some other things you can add to water. Any type of fruit is great to add to water. Raspberries. You could do lemon or lime juice. That's going to have a lot of electrolytes. And watermelon is a great hydrating fruit. So even adding that to your water, I would say fruit's the biggest one. Yeah.
Okay. Anything in particular for potassium?
Yeah, potassium. I know that's definitely another hard one, more from foods. I would say bananas, avocados, but I have seen some people add in like cream of tartar, like the seasoning or the ground up cream of tartar. And if you combine that with some juice or something, it has lots of potassium. So that could be an option. Not a super common thing I see people do just because, taste wise, but you really only need a super small amount. But
that is really interesting. Okay, thank you. Excellent. Okay, is there anything other than the ones that you've already specifically mentioned, but anything that people should make sure that they're avoiding? Sorry, I just have to add this in because it shocked me. I was talking to someone the other day who said her 17-year-old son had a concussion, and when they went to the doctor, they were like, well, have him have lots of sugar because his brain needs sugar now. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's exactly the opposite thing that he should be doing. So other than not having artificial and processed sugars, what else should people be avoiding if we haven't mentioned everything?
Yeah. Well, so with the sugar thing, so your brain does use a lot of sugar. However, you want to get that from so carbohydrates. So carbohydrates break down into glucose in our body, which sometimes people refer to as sugar. So getting good sources of sugar, I would say, is definitely important. So good carbohydrates that have a lot of fiber or starchy carbohydrates, potatoes, sweet potatoes are really great, whole wheat pastas, things like that. But yeah, because that will break down into glucose in our body, which feeds our brain. So maybe that's what that doctor was.
Yeah, hopefully. Okay, I hope that's what he meant. Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you for the clarification. But yeah, go ahead.
Yes. So, sorry, other things to avoid, you said, right?
Yeah.
I would say, like, if you are going to eat even just fruit, try to avoid doing it by itself. So really focusing on pairing different food groups. So I guess I'm not really saying to avoid one certain thing, but just we want to avoid spikes in our insulin levels. So if we eat just sugar by itself, we might get a bigger spike in insulin. So to kind of help that, we can add in fiber or fat, and that will help kind of slow down the spike of glucose in our system. So just anytime even if you do want to indulge in, because I definitely believe in balance still, even with a concussion. So if you want to indulge in, a little slice of chocolate cake, or it's someone's birthday and they're having cupcakes, something that can be helpful is just eating maybe a thing of fat beforehand, or just having a little snack with some protein and fat. So to kind of balance out that sugar. So you're not just consuming sugar. So just avoiding, even if it's a good source of sugar, avoid it by itself.
Okay, super interesting. Okay, thank you. That's good advice. What have you found to be the most common or challenges to people's implementation of this advice that you give?
Yeah, I think people either lack the time or they lack energy. Energy is a big one. People don't have energy to cook anymore or go to the store even. The store is super overstimulating.
Yes.
So if you can, if budget allows, I definitely recommend ordering your groceries, having a friend pick up your groceries. That can be such a huge help. And then buying like even frozen vegetables, like frozen fruit and frozen vegetables that you can add to smoothies, and just having that on hand. Also using like crock pot when you can. If you have an Instapot, taking advantage of those. And then if you do have a day where you feel really good energy-wise, or your symptoms are low, prepping ahead. So you could, you suddenly feel really good, take advantage of that and make 3 dinners for the week or something. So preparing when you can, and then trying to find that support system to help you either get your groceries or even help you cook meals. That'd be awesome. But
yeah, that's great. Thank you. This is not a concussion, but when I was pregnant with my fourth baby, my husband and I were trying to do the Whole30, which is kind of like a paleo kind of diet. And I actually felt really good. Like my back pain decreased. It was really great. Yeah. But exactly what you said, like the needing to prepare every single meal was so overwhelming. I just remember having like a breakdown, laying on my couch, just crying because I had to like make something. And all I wanted to do was put something in my mouth. I was so hungry, like so overwhelmed. I'm sure there were pregnancy hormones playing into that too. But it was, yeah, I can relate in that sense of like, oh my gosh, I want to eat and I don't want to prepare something. Are there like quick go-to things? I know some, like I had like Lara bars. That was something that I could eat that I was like really fast. Like, are there like good snacks like that you can recommend?
Yeah. Right now I'm on like one of those, they're called chomps, those beef sticks. I think having those kind of quick protein sources on hand are good. So canned tuna, you can throw together a quick lunch or dinner, and that's got the omega-3s in it. So yeah, canned tuna, and like you said, the Lara bars, those are great. You can make your own like protein energy bites or balls, I think people call them.
Yeah. With like the peanut butter and coconut and chocolate chips. Yeah.
Yeah, things like that. And then you could even, I think bone broth, I mentioned before, either there's some store-bought brands that can be great. So having that on hand too, because you could throw together a quick soup or even just drink the bone broth plain if you're feeling super fatigued and just need some protein. It's going to be high in protein, so, and help you stay hydrated. So yeah, bone broth.
Where do you get bone broth? Like what section of the store do you look for that? Or what brands would you recommend?
I'm not really sure what section. I'd say it's like kind of by where the soups would probably be. It's typically in like a jar or a box if you're buying store-bought bone broth. Some good brands to look for though is Kettle and Fire is a really good one. Kettle and Fire is my favorite, and it's a little bit different than chicken stock or beef stock. So I will just throw that out there.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I was thinking. I'm not familiar with buying bone broth at the store. I know where the chicken broth is, but that's
it might be close. It's usually close to the stocks.
Okay,
so it's just more dense than like a stock would be.
And you just make it like straight out. Do you warm it up usually? Yeah. Okay, because that sounds a little better, maybe.
You warm it up on the stovetop. You could even microwave it. But yeah, I found the other brand I like. So Dr. Kelly Ann, that's a good one as well. And some of them, experiment, because some people don't like certain brands, like the flavor of them. So experiment with different brands and then adding in like some herbs or more salt if you feel like you need more salt or sodium. So yes, but you can also make bone broth at home too, but that's very time consuming and for some concussion patients.
Okay, good to know. How can people know if they are deficient in something? Like do they need to go to a doctor and get a blood test, or like what should people do if they're wondering if they are deficient?
Yeah, to know for sure, like 100%, blood work would probably be the best way to go. And so getting tested you can ask for specific ones like magnesium, vitamin D, or just do kind of general blood work. Or whatever your doctor would recommend. But yeah, that's the only way to know, like for sure. I would say if you're getting a lot of cramps or have a hard time sleeping, that can be a sign of magnesium deficiency, but also some other minerals as well. They kind of can play into each other. So yeah, it's hard to know for sure what one you'd be deficient in. So I always recommend before taking a supplement, you do get tested. And that's kind of why I guess my only recommended supplement would be that DHA if you're not eating fish. Because the other ones, it's kind of hard to recommend for sure unless, you do have that deficiency.
Got it. Okay, that's good to know. Any other challenges that you find people have with, again, implementing all of these recommendations and any of these suggestions that you have to help them overcome those challenges?
Yeah. I would say just not getting too stressed out or sucked into it needing to be perfect or following some exact plan. Yes, perfection. A lot of people are thinking, if they do one thing one day, is it gonna like totally derail their healing? And I would say no, it's not like a hard line like that. So giving yourself lots of grace and being patient with yourself, the more you can reduce your stress, that also helps healing. So don't be stressed out about too much about what to eat and what you're not eating, what you are eating. So yeah.
Thank you for saying that. I think that's such valuable advice, because I do think that, especially when people, and understandably, when people are like, I need to get better, I need to do all the things to get better, then it's like, it can turn into this like perfectionistic all or nothing, and that can be problematic. So I love that grace word. Give yourself grace. This is a journey. You're going to get you're going to progress. And I imagine to some degree it's a matter of, what your body likes and can handle, right? Like I imagine every individual is different as far as like how much of these things and what they like particularly, things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why like we don't typically recommend following an exact diet or plan, because it is so subjective and everyone has different deficiencies and different symptoms they're dealing with. So it's very hard to just pull a diet you think would be helpful off the internet and follow it. So just sticking to those basic guidelines of getting enough protein, getting enough carbohydrates, plenty of healthy fats, and plenty of fruits and vegetables, and kind of, making sure you've got all those food groups in each meal. So I would say that's the biggest thing to look for. Every time you sit down, eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner, kind of look at your plate and just see, do I have a good amount of protein? And by that, I just mean like maybe 25% of your plate, and the other 25% is a good carbohydrate. And then the rest is like fat and vegetables. So just kind of looking at your plate and eyeballing it. Is it well balanced? Do you feel satisfied afterwards? Those are going to be the biggest things.
So good. Thank you. Any other advice or recommendations that you can think of that would benefit people who are working on their concussion recovery journey?
Let me see. What haven't we kind of dived into? Antioxidants are a really good one.
Like what?
Yeah.
Information on that.
So the things that are high in antioxidants that first come to my mind are those dark berries. So blueberries, blackberries, cherries, but also like some dark leafy greens will have it. So eating those dark vegetables and fruits, those will give you lots of antioxidants. And the reason I mentioned those is because when you do have an injury, you can sometimes have some inflammation. And so antioxidants can help kind of combat that inflammation and help our bodies heal. So including a good amount of antioxidants can be helpful.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. So if people have other questions, and actually, hold on, before I get to this one, I think, are there places that you would recommend that people go for recipes or ideas for how to cook this way? Anything in particular you recommend?
There is a pretty decent website I like called How to Feed the Brain.
Okay.
I think it's just howtofeedthebrain.com. But they have a lot of nutritious recipes on their website. So I would definitely recommend checking them out. And then CFX, I know, has an amazing blog post on nutrition. So maybe we can like include a link, or I don't know how that all works.
We will absolutely include a link. Thank you. I was just thinking that too.
I love that blog post. And then I would say if you're just generally kind of searching some meals, I always like to type in like 20-minute well-balanced meal dinner ideas. Something like that can be helpful. I don't have a specific website on kind of besides that one I already mentioned, but that's kind of what I would search if I'm just wanting a new recipe. So
Okay, excellent. Thank you. That's helpful. And then, yes, now we'll get to this last one. If people have other questions or want more information on how to manage their diet to best help their recovery, where would you direct them? I assume this would be one of the places. Is there anywhere else that you tell people to go to get more information?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely that blog post again, I referred a lot of people to that. And then definitely doing like a consult with, like, if you're coming to CFX with myself, or I even sometimes will do ones that are, not part of the CFX treatment. So I'm always happy to meet with people over Zoom and answer their questions. We can kind of be more specific too, because I know what their diet's like, what their symptoms are like. So I would say meeting with a nutritionist can be definitely helpful if you're wanting more of that direct, specific advice, I guess.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Now, how could people contact you if they were interested in doing that?
Yeah, I can leave. I have a link. I don't have a website yet, but I do have a link that they can and my email that they can email me, and I can send them the link to schedule. So I'd be happy to reach out to anybody, or they can always just schedule through my link, and then I can chat with them.
Perfect. Okay. Well, we can include those in the show notes as well. All right. Anything else that you want people to know about concussions or nutrition or just anything in general?
Yeah, I think I covered all of it. My biggest thing I always want to just, stress is, I guess don't stress is
Don't stress.
don't stress. Don't stress. And yeah, it is a journey. It's not about perfection. So that's just the biggest thing I hope people take away is that, they don't need to stress too much. As long as they're eating enough calories, listening to their body, that will be the most helpful. So.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your experience and your wisdom. I really, really appreciate it. I think it'd be helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you listened in today. I hope you have gained some helpful insights and inspiration regarding dealing with and recovering from concussions. My goal is to create more awareness and education about concussions and the fact that there is so much that can be done to improve life after someone has had one. Help me spread the message by liking, commenting, rating, and subscribing to this podcast, and share it with others who would benefit from hearing it. There are more resources available on my website. And again, if you or someone you love would benefit from concussion coaching, sign up for a free consultation using the link in the show notes or at my website, www.theconcussioncoach.com. Thank you. See you next time, and take good care of that amazing brain of yours.